Hey there, this is Becca DeYoung, Canadian Artist Down Under. Today I have a tutorial on watercolor pencil crayons, a few different kinds, and 4 ways that you can use them to get some really fun, interesting, dramatic results in your paintings. I have 4 different sets here that I want to show you. The first is the most economical ones. These are the Faber-Castell ones. You can get a package of 36 for about $29. That works out to about 81 cents a pencil crayon. They have a wide range of colors. If you like pinks and blues, there are tons of blues in this 36 pencil set. However, they don't have some of the really basic colors like burnt sienna and cadmium red, which are both of those colors are pretty important. These are definitely the quality you would find in a back to school section of one of the larger department stores. And I will show you just a difference in quality with them to some of the other ones. The next ones I have here are the Staedtler brand. They are also a fairly inexpensive set. This is a package of 12 and you can get it for around $8. These are both Australian prices. I purchased these in Australia. That works out to about 67 cents a pencil crayon. And they're really handy because they have a white tip around each of the colors. So if you've got kids and you are mixing all of the pencil crayons together in one box, it makes it very, very easy to pull out the watercolor pencil crayons right away. Whereas if you go with the Faber-Castell ones, you actually have to look. They do say on them, watercolor. There, you can read that. Watercolor Faber-Castell. Now the Faber-Castells do have a code on them, and the code for them responds to the code on the back. But like I said, most of these colors aren't exactly what you want. There are some that are listed like sap green, and then there's a bunch that you're not going to find the same color depending on each set. So you'll have to guess a little bit as to what's closest to the cobalt blue, that sort of thing. The next set I have is the next brand of Staedtler, and that is their Carrot Aquarelle brand. This is a much higher quality of the Staedtler, and they have really, really nice colors in them. They come in a tin, and the tin also has a really nice legend at the back. It doesn't have the names, but it does have the colors, so you could compare if you're trying to match cobalt red with some of those. It's really handy to get something in a tin because I can drop this as many times as I want to and it doesn't break, and I can keep all of them in there. So that's a really good way to do it. The last kind I have here are also Faber-Castell, and they're from their Albrecht Dürer professional watercolor set. So if you want to go to high end, these are the guys you want to use. Every one has not only a number on it, but it also has the color written in 2 languages there. So it makes it much, much easier, and this set is absolutely gorgeous. I got it for a Christmas gift a couple of years ago, and I absolutely love it. They just melt like butter on the paper. So that's just an idea of what you can get as far as the kinds. Now I'll show you exactly what you can do with them. I have here just 2 examples of the sorts of things you can do with watercolor pencil crayons. This is an example of some jellyfish. I did the thick lines, the thin lines, the splattering, and the drawing, all using different techniques of watercolor pencils. And here's another one. This one, you can really see the movement in the feathers by the strokes that are really giving the idea that there's some sort of action taking place. And again, you can see lots of splatters in them as well. So in order to explain the different ways you can use them, I have set up a little chart here using the cheapest ones, the more expensive ones, to the most expensive ones. And what I've tried to do is pick colors that are very similar in the different ones. Now, it was a little hard to do because some of the colors don't exist in some of these packages. First though, just a quick word about sharpening. To sharpen watercolor pencil crayons, you just need a normal sharpener. However, you want to make sure you sharpen them and that your points are nice and sharp before you start using them, because once you start wetting the tips and then you try to sharpen them, you will find that the tips break much easier and you're going to end up wasting a lot of your watercolor pencil crayon. So that's a really handy tip to know. Now, the first way that you can use them is just like a normal pencil, or a normal crayon, pencil crayon I should say. So you just use them. I've just drawn little 2 centimeter by 1 centimeter boxes here just to show the different ones. And I have to say that this brand here, the Faber-Castells, when I was sharpening them, I noticed that the wood was much harder. I had to actually turn the sharpener quite a bit more to get these ones than I did the other ones. And then I noticed this brand here, the Norris Club Staedtler, which is just one step up in price. The colors started even going on this paper much, much nicer, much easier than they did in the Faber-Castell bottom brand. By the time I got up to the Albrecht Dürer, the pencil pigment was already so smooth on the paper. It was really, really like melted butter. It was just gorgeous. So you can draw in any way you can. You can do layering. So I could do one color on top of another. And then the easiest thing to do, and I'll just move this over so you can see what I'm doing, is with a paintbrush. You just want clean water on your paintbrush. And if you wet, let me just, okay. If you wet the area, you can see how vibrant, even in the kids' cheapest ones, how vibrant that color is. And then the nice thing is you can drag that color out. I'm going to clean my brush in the water. And now all I have is water on my brush, and you can drag it out even more. Now I realize that's fairly hard to see with the yellow, but it will definitely be more obvious with the other one. So I'm going to do the same thing with the next brand up. Now look at the difference. Look at how much brighter that yellow is. And then if I want to carry that out, now I've cleaned my brush. So now all I have is clean water on my brush, and I can drag that out. Look how much further I can drag. Same amount of pigment. I made sure that when I was drawing these that I used the same amount of lines, and I tried to use the same amount of force, so we would have the same amount of pigment, or at least you would see how easily you can get similar amounts of pigment. So this is the Staedtler Karat, and it's quite similar to the Norris Club, especially for that color. But with the Albrecht Dürer, ooh, that's beautiful. And I can really pull the Albrecht Dürer out. Even if all I have is clean water on my brush, I could pull that color so far. Now, the next one I tried to pick was the closest to a sap green. So in the kids brand, you can see how as soon as I wet it, it almost, you lose the lines. It's very noticeable now in the yellow that you can only see the line up at the top, at the bottom. It did the same thing here. I'm not going to be able to pull that very far at all. And if I take what little green pigment was on my brush off, wash my brush, now you'll find that I pretty much lose the pigment completely. However, with the Norris Club, now the Norris Club ones actually say aquarelle on them. That's French for watercolor. So if you do go with the Staedtler Norris Club, you can learn a little bit of French, and then you'll always know when you're grabbing one of them because it says aquarelle on it. So again, you can see that that color, I was able to pull it a lot further, and I could pull it even further there. Now, if you're wondering why my paints are pooling this way, it's because my art table is on a slant, so just a little bit of gravity happening there. The next one up is much more of a lime green than a sap green, but I can pull that one quite a bit further, but you will really see how vibrant this pigment is with the Albrecht Dürer. And that's just clean water on my brush. Now I think I went a little light in the greens, but let's try the closest I could find in each to a cobalt blue. So again, you can see how it's almost lost a lot of its pigment in there. And I'm not going to be able to pull that much further. I will try with just clean water on my brush. But you can see how I wasn't able to get that green very far at all. Statler, the next one. Ooh, that's a lovely color. It's always so nice when you add the water and then you're like, ooh, so much more vibrant. That's what I love about watercolor pencil crayons. So the very first time I used them was in a class, and I was using good quality pencil crayons on good quality watercolor paper. And my art teacher said, don't waste your money buying really expensive set. Just go out, buy an inexpensive set. And she actually had the Norris Club ones. So that was the first set I bought, were the Norris Club ones. Those are the ones with the white tip. She said, just take them home and try them. And I took them home and I could not get them to do what I was able to get them to do in class. And I was really, really disappointed. And it actually turned me off trying them again. But later I discovered that the reason why I was having such a hard time getting them to do anything was because I was not using good watercolor paper. So with good watercolor paper, your colors are automatically going to flow, they're going to blend, they're going to wick, you're going to be able to drag them out. Now look how beautiful that Albrecht Dürer turned out. So then I just went home after months and months and months of doing absolutely nothing with them and tried it again on good quality watercolor paper and was amazed at the difference. So having an art journal where you just muck around and it's just 200 GSM paper, or it says it's multimedia paper, any paper that says it's good for all mediums, acrylic and watercolor, it's not good for watercolor. But if that's your art journal and that's just what you're using to play around and to try things, then go ahead, try your watercolor pencil crayons, but don't give up on them if you can't get them to do what you want to do before you try them on good paper. Now I tried to pick a cadmium red in each set, or what's closest to a cadmium red. So I actually don't see much of a difference in those two. Now the Faber-Castell Albrecht Dürer had so many different cadmium reds. They had a cadmium red light, a cadmium red medium, a cadmium red deep. I chose the medium, but it looks very much more like a burnt sienna to me than a cadmium red. And I wasn't thinking there, and I accidentally washed my paintbrush before I dragged it. So that's the reason why all of a sudden it looks like we have no pigment there. It's because I actually cleaned my brush before I dragged that there. So that's just a little example of how different the colors look on the exact same quality paper. The next way that you can use your watercolor pencil crayons is to actually use them wet on your paper. So if you have dry paper, like I have here, you can put your watercolor pencil crayons directly in the water. So to show the difference with the 4 different kinds, I'm going to put them all in the water for the exact same amount of time. And so I'm literally just sticking them in the, oops, that's a happy accident. No worries, it's water. Okay, that's good. That means I'm already set for the part when I'm gonna do it on wet paper. Okay, so I'm gonna do that again. I'm just literally putting them in the water for a couple seconds. And now I'll show you the 4 different ones. So the first one is the kids. You do get a nice thick line, much, much thicker than you would get with the dry one. Then we have this one, and you can see that's a really vibrant color. It does run out very quickly though. I already have used up that entire tip just in 3 little squiggly lines. Oh, and this one almost seems like it didn't absorb much water. So I'm gonna wet that one again. I'm not sure if that's, there we go. You can see how vibrant that is. And I guess I should have done that with all of them to show you just the difference between how vibrant it is before it's wet and after. Anyway, that gives you an example of just how bright those can be. Now the next way you can use them, and I'll use the exact same colors, is to wet your paper first. So if I wet the area below each of these, and then you can use the pencil crayons dry or wet. So first I'll do the dry ones. So that's the exact same pencil as above. And you can see it's really, really thick and blotchy. Gives you quite a nice effect. And here. Now, the next way you can do it is you can go over top of any of these lines and get what's happened here is after I re-wet that one, it's quite wet and you can really, really see how vibrant the colors are. So you see in this one, it's not nearly as vibrant, but if I just go over it with clean water on my brush and I can drag that out, I can make these lines nice and thick. I can move the pigment down or across. It's a really nice, easy way to soften your lines, and you don't have to worry about your work drying because you've already done the hard line. So the hard line's going to be there no matter what. I have discovered that if you put wet brush, wet pencil crayon on wet paper, you won't be able to pull those lines nearly as much. So if you want to do this sort of a technique, you have to do it on dry paper and then move the paint with a wet brush. If you draw these lines on wet paper, you'll find that they actually don't move very much. So the last way you can use your watercolor pencil crayons is to use them as a tube of paint. So in order to do that, you once again put your watercolor pencil crayon right in the water for a couple seconds, and then also wet your paintbrush. And then you load up your paintbrush by rubbing it up against your watercolor pencil crayon. And you would be amazed at the amount of pigment you can get directly from the watercolor pencil crayon right onto your brush. So there, I've only been loading for a few seconds, and you can, obviously not as much as I thought. There you go. And if I add just a little bit more water to my brush, and you can just keep loading it, loading it, loading it. The more you load it, the more vibrant those colors will be. It's a really nice way of doing it. You can tell from my set which are the ones that I've been loading from my brush because the wood is no longer the shade the wood was, and it's actually become the same shade as the tip. So that's an easy way for you to tell which ones you've used before. That's just 4 simple ways that you can use watercolor pencil crayons to get many different effects, to get lots of different tones and values, and some really fine lines, some thick lines. If you have any questions, please be sure to leave me a comment and I will get back to you. As well, if you do go and look online for the prices of these 4, whether that's in Australia or in Canada, let me know what you find out. Please leave a comment and let me know, and that way I can pass on those prices and the best places where you can buy them to other viewers. If you like this video, I would ask that you would please subscribe to my YouTube channel, subscribe to my blog or my Facebook page, or all of the above. That would be awesome. As well, I'm on Pinterest and I'm on Instagram, Becca de Jong Art. Please give me the thumbs up and share, and stay tuned for more videos. Thanks.